Have you ever frantically searched for your reading glasses, only to realize they were perched on your nose the whole time? Or have you ever turned your house upside down looking for your keys, only to find you were gripping them tightly in your sweaty palm? We often laugh when we hear these stories. We call it the absent-mindedness of old age. But if we look deeper, it is not just a lapse of memory. It is a blindness of the mind. When we are too obsessed with loss, we become blind to what we possess. We busy ourselves searching for happiness on distant horizons, forgetting that happiness might be the very legs carrying us forward. We search for peace in temples or expensive retreats, forgetting that peace lies right in the breath we are taking. Tonight, let me tell you the story of Old Moc, a diligent but anxious shepherd. A man who spent a long day of sweat and tears looking for a sheep that he never actually lost. This story is a mirror. Look into it, and perhaps you will see that you are riding on the very sheep you think you have lost. Old Moc was the best shepherd in the green steppe. He wasn't the best because he had extraordinary strength, nor because he played the flute beautifully. He was the best because he was the most careful man on earth. Or rather, he was the most anxious man on earth. His flock consisted of exactly 100 sheep. Not 99, not 101. It had to be 100. For Old Moc, the number 100 was a symbol of completeness, safety, and perfection. Every morning, before the sun rose, the first thing he did was not wash his face, but count his sheep. Every evening, before herding them into the pen, he counted them again. He knew every single one by name: Cotton, Brownie, Stubby, Spot. But the one he loved and trusted the most was the leader of the flock. It was a massive ram, with wool as thick and soft as a premium cotton mattress and magnificent curved horns. Old Moc called him the General. The General was not just the leader, he was also Old Moc's legs. Because of his old age and aching knees, Moc often rode on the General's back to move around the pasture. The General was calm and steady. He had never once let his master fall. One autumn morning, a thick fog covered the valley like a giant blanket. Old Moc drove the sheep to the fresh grass by the stream. As was his habit, he climbed onto the General's back, sat perched on the soft wool, and began the most important task of the day: counting. He held his staff, pointing at each white silhouette in the mist. 1, 2, 3, 15, 50, 80. He counted very slowly. He was afraid of making a mistake. 98? 99? Old Moc stopped. His eyes narrowed. He looked around. That was it. There were only 99. His perfect round number of 100 had shattered. His heart skipped a beat. A chill ran down his spine, colder than the morning mist. Impossible, he muttered. I must have miscounted. The fog is too thick. I must count again. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his heart, which was starting to pound. He gathered the sheep closer. Sitting on the General's back, he circled the flock and counted again from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. His voice began to tremble at 50, and his voice cracked at 90. 99. Still only 99. One sheep had vanished. A member of his family had been kidnapped, or lost, or worse, eaten by a wolf. Panic flared in Old Moc's mind like a wildfire. He forgot where he was, forgot what he was doing. In his mind, there was only the image of the 100th sheep crying for help somewhere out there. Lost. It's really lost. Old Moc cried out in dismay. He kicked the General's sides. The leading ram understood his master's urgency and began to run. Old Moc, riding on the general, dashed into the fog. He went to find the 100th sheep. He ran to the rocky stream. "Cotton! Brownie! Is anyone here?" he screamed. The babbling stream answered him indifferently. He strained his eyes, looking into the bushes and rock crevices. He saw white boulders and jumped, thinking they were sheep. But up close, they were just cold stones. "Not here," he mumbled, sweat dripping from his forehead despite the cold. "It must have wandered to Wailing Hill. There is good grass there, but many cliffs." He spurred the general to run toward Wailing Hill. The general diligently carried his master. He ran, his hooves clattering on the hard ground. He panted heavily, but Old Moc didn't hear it. He only heard the number 99 echoing in his head. Reaching the top of Wailing Hill, the wind whipped against his face. Old Moc stood on the hillside, still sitting on the general, cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted, "My child, come back. I am here." Only the howling wind answered. Old Moc's fear began to turn into imagination. He imagined a gray wolf stalking his poor sheep. He imagined the sheep slipping and falling down a cliff, lying helpless with a broken leg in the abyss. Tears began to stream down his face. "It is my fault. I didn't watch carefully enough. I am a useless old man." Old Moc cried as he continued his search. He passed through the black pine forest. He passed through the valley of thorns. He even asked a woodcutter, "Sir, have you seen a lost sheep?" The woodcutter looked at him, then looked at the massive animal he was riding, and asked hesitantly, "What does the sheep look like, old man?" Old Moc described it through his tears. It is big. Its wool is very white and thick. It is very obedient. It is the most beautiful sheep in the flock." The woodcutter scratched his head, looked at the general whom the old man was riding, a big, thick-fleeced, white, obedient sheep, and pointed. "Old man, I think?" But Old Moc didn't wait for the woodcutter to finish. He thought the man was stuttering because he hadn't seen it. He kicked the general to run again. "Thank you. I have to keep looking. It's getting dark." Old Moc rushed away, leaving the woodcutter standing there, smiling bewilderedly. The sun began to dip toward the west. The weak golden light was not enough to warm Old Moc's frozen heart. Both he and the general were exhausted. They had circled the vast valley twice. Old Moc's voice was hoarse. His eyes were blurry from hunger and fatigue. But the number 99 still haunted him. He didn't dare go back to the pen. How could he face the incompleteness? How could he sleep knowing one sheep was alone? Old Moc stopped the general by an old oak tree. He didn't get off the horse. No, didn't get off the sheep. He was too tired to climb down. He just sat perched on the general's back, leaned against the oak tree, and gasped for air. In the delirium of exhaustion, he began to blame the heavens. "Why are you so unfair to me? I have worked hard all my life. I cherished every single one. Why did you take away my 100th sheep?" He bent down, hugging the neck of the animal he was riding for comfort. He buried his face in its thick, warm wool. The familiar scent of dry grass and sheep wool filled his nose. "Oh, General," he whispered to the animal, "you are the leader. You are the wisest. Do you know which of your siblings is lost? Why don't you lead me to them?" The general let out a deep, low, "Bah, and turned his head to lick Old Moc's hand. He seemed to say, "Master, what are you looking for?" Old Moc stroked the general's fur. His hand touched the familiar curved horns. He suddenly realized this fur was incredibly soft. He suddenly realized this back was incredibly sturdy, and he suddenly realized all day long he had traveled the world, but his feet had never touched the ground. Why didn't he have to walk? Because he was riding a sheep. A bolt of lightning struck Old Moc's old mind. Slowly, very slowly, his eyes widened. He looked down between his legs. A white fleece, a big head, a short, wagging tail. This was a sheep. He looked out at the distant pasture, where the flock was grazing and waiting. He began to count again. This time he counted the sheep he was sitting on. 98, 99, over there. Then he patted the general's neck. And 100 is you. The silence of the evening was suddenly shattered, not by crying, but by laughter. Ha 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 ha, Old Moc laughed. He laughed until his body shook, laughed until the general shook with him. He laughed until tears streamed down his face. He laughed at his own stupidity. He laughed at the invisible fear that had tortured him for the last 10 hours. It turned out, the 100th sheep was not eaten by a wolf. It did not fall down a cliff. It was not lost. It was right here. It was the closest to him, the most intimate. It had carried him to search for itself. He had spent the whole day looking for happiness far away, while happiness was carrying him on its back. He had panicked over a lack, while wholeness had always been present. He just hadn't counted the foundation in his list. Old Moc hugged the general tightly, kissing the furry forehead. "Oh, General, I am so sorry. I am truly a senile old man. I made you run all day to find yourself. I am terrible." The general just bowed forgivingly. He didn't blame his master. He was just glad his master had finally woken up. The sun sank behind the mountain, casting the last rays of honey-colored light over the valley. Old Moc herded the sheep back to the pen. This time he didn't count. He knew they were enough. And more importantly, he knew that enough did not lie in the number 100, but in the peace of mind of appreciating what was supporting him. The villagers saw Old Moc singing as he walked, his face beaming like a child's. They asked, "Old Moc, did you find the sheep?" Old Moc laughed loudly, patting the general. "Found him. He hid very well, right under my bottom." My dear friend, the story of Old Moc sounds funny, but take a moment to reflect. How many times in life have we acted exactly like him? We run around frantically searching for happiness. We think happiness is the 100th sheep lost somewhere, in a higher-paying job, in a more perfect partner, in a bigger house. We are anxious, we are afraid, we complain that life is lacking. But we forget one thing. Happiness, sometimes, is the life present in your very breath. Happiness is the health that allows you to run and search. Happiness is the family silently supporting you, just like the general patiently carrying Old Moc on his back. You are riding on happiness to look for happiness. You are using the peace of the present to trade for an illusion of peace in the future. Do not wait until you are exhausted to realize this. Stop for a moment. Stop looking far away. Look down at your feet. Feel what is supporting you right now. Maybe you don't have all 100 things you desire, but you have the most important thing: presence. The final sheep is never lost. It is only hidden by your anxiety. Count again. And remember, don't forget to count yourself and what you already have in the list of gratitude. Thank you for listening. Wishing you a peaceful, complete night. And may you find your own sheep right in your sleep tonight.